The cafe had always been my quiet place. It sat just beyond the edge of town, where the road narrowed and the trees leaned closer, as if listening. I went there every Thursday afternoon after my husband passed, not because the coffee was exceptional, but because no one asked questions. The air smelled faintly of cinnamon and old wood, and the owner understood silence better than most people understood grief. That afternoon, I wasn't alone. My son, Lucas, sat across from me in the booth, his shoulders tense in a way I recognized but never named. Beside him, his wife Marissa stirred her tea over and over without taking a single sip. The spoon tapped softly against the porcelain, a nervous rhythm that made my jaw tighten. "You've really been holding on to that property for a long time," Marissa said finally, her tone gentle but practiced. "It's a lot for one person now." Lucas nodded immediately. "We just worry about you, Mom. Winters out there are rough. Taxes, repairs, it's not easy." I smiled, the way I had learned to smile over the past year, polite, contained, careful. "I've lived there for over 40 years, I said. "I know how to take care of it." They exchanged a look, quick, subtle, but unmistakable. Mothers always see those looks. It wasn't disagreement, it was timing. "Think about it," Lucas said, standing to pay the bill. "That's all we're asking." They walked to the counter together, heads bent close, voices low. I stayed seated, folding my napkin, reaching for my purse, when I felt someone standing beside me. I startled so sharply my water glass tipped and spilled across the table. The woman hadn't been there a moment before. She looked to be in her early 50s, with iron gray hair pulled tightly back and a coat far too heavy for indoors. Her eyes were steady in a way that made my chest tighten. "Eleanor Hayes," she said, not a question. "Yes," I replied, my heart already racing. She placed a thin manila envelope on the table between us. Her hand trembled slightly as she let go. "You'll need this tonight. Whatever you do, don't open it here." I opened my mouth to ask who she was, how she knew my name, but she was already turning away. By the time I stood, she had reached the door and disappeared into the passing traffic outside. The envelope sat there, impossibly heavy. Lucas and Marissa returned moments later. "Everything okay?" Lucas asked. "Fine," I said too quickly, slipping the envelope into my bag before either of them could see it. The drive home blurred past, small talk about weather, property values, upcoming plans. They dropped me at the end of my gravel drive and declined my invitation to come inside. I watched their car disappear, then stood there longer than necessary, listening to the wind move through the trees. For the first time in months, I felt watched. Inside, I locked the door, something I hadn't done regularly since my husband died. The house creaked softly around me, familiar and strange all at once. I placed the envelope on the kitchen table and sat across from it without touching it. Dusk slid quietly into night. I waited until the house was completely dark before opening it. I don't know why, only that once I did, something would change. Inside was a small brass key wrapped in tissue paper and a narrow strip of lined notebook paper. The handwriting was neat, deliberate. 11:32 p.m. Answer: do not call back. That was all. I checked the clock. 8:59. I locked every door and window. At 11:31, my heart began pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. At 11:32, the phone rang. No name, no number. I answered on the second ring. "Hello?" At first, there was only breathing, slow, controlled. Then a voice spoke, low, distorted, but unmistakably familiar. "Eleanor." My knees nearly gave out. I'd heard that voice for more than 40 years, in kitchens, fields, hospitals. I had buried it months ago. Do not trust Lucas, do not trust Marissa, and do not trust the local police. Tears burned my eyes. You are not safe where you are. The land is the reason they want it empty. Who is this? I whispered. A pause. My death was not an accident, and if you let them push you out, everything I protected will disappear. The line crackled. The truth is under your feet, Eleanor, and you don't have much time. The call ended. No record, no trace. I sat there until dawn, knowing one thing with terrifying certainty. Whatever killed my husband was still alive, and it was closer than I ever imagined. I thought the phone call was the worst thing I would hear that night. I was wrong, because by morning, my own son would arrive with a plan that proved the danger wasn't buried underground. It was already inside my family. I did not sleep. The phone call replayed in my head on a loop, each word pressing deeper than the last. Do not trust Lucas. Do not trust Marissa. The land is the reason. I sat at the kitchen table with the lights off, listening to the house breathe around me, every creak suddenly suspicious. At dawn, I walked outside barefoot, letting the cold earth ground me. The land stretched quietly around the house, dew clinging to the grass, the old fence line barely visible through the morning mist. My husband had loved this property more than anything. He said land remembered things, that if you listened long enough, it would tell you the truth. At the time, I thought it was poetry. Now, it felt like a warning. At exactly 9 o'clock, Lucas's truck appeared at the end of the drive. He didn't call first. He never did when he wanted control. Marissa stayed in the passenger seat, lips pressed tight, eyes hidden behind sunglasses, even though the sun was barely up. They didn't knock. Lucas let himself in like he always had, setting his keys loudly on the counter. "Morning, Mom," he said, too cheerful. "We thought we'd come by and talk." Marissa glanced around the kitchen as if she were mentally rearranging it. "I had the strangest night," I said calmly, watching them closely. "Someone called me." Lucas froze for half a second. "A call?" he asked. "From who?" "I don't know. No number." Marissa's hand tightened around her purse strap. "Probably a scam. You know how those are." "Maybe," I said, taking a seat. "But they knew my name, and they mentioned the land." Lucas laughed too quickly. "Mom, you're reading into things." "Am I?" I asked softly. He cleared his throat. "That's actually what we wanted to talk about." Of course it was. Marissa stepped forward and placed a folder on the table, thicker than the last one. "We've done some research," she said. "There's a developer interested in buying nearby parcels. Prices won't stay this high forever." I didn't open the folder. "I want you to sell," I said. "We want what's best for you," Lucas corrected. "This place is isolated. It's a liability." A liability? The word echoed uncomfortably with the voice from the phone. "I'm not selling," I said. The silence that followed was sharp. Marissa's expression hardened. "You can't live out here forever." "I already have," I replied. Lucas exhaled slowly. "Then we need to talk about other options." "Such as?" I asked. "Assisted living, closer to us, safer." There it was. I looked at my son, the boy I once held through nightmares, who now spoke to me like an obstacle. I wondered how long this conversation had been rehearsed. "I'm not going anywhere," I said. Marissa snapped the folder shut. "You're being stubborn." "No," I replied. "I'm being cautious." Lucas stood abruptly. "This isn't up for debate." I met his eyes. "Then you should leave." They stared at me as if I had spoken a foreign language. "We'll give you time," Lucas said finally, "but don't make this difficult." When they were gone, I locked the door and sat down, my hands shaking for the first time that day. I waited until noon before calling the number written on the strip of paper. It rang once, then clicked. A different voice answered this time, female, calm, careful. "You received the envelope," she said. "Yes," I replied. "Who are you?" "Someone your husband trusted, someone who tried to stop what happened." My chest tightened. "He said his death wasn't an accident." "It wasn't," she replied, "and the land you're standing on is why." She told me about surveys done without permits, about mineral rights quietly reassigned years ago, about signatures that looked like my husband's but weren't. They need you gone to finalize it. Selling is the cleanest way. "And if I don't?" I asked. There was a pause. "Then they'll escalate," she said. "The pressure will come from inside the family." I thought of Lucas's tone, Marissa's folder, the urgency in their eyes. "What about the key?" I asked. "Tonight, the old pump shed, bring no one." The line went dead. That evening, I walked the perimeter of the land as the sun dipped low. I noticed things I'd ignored for years: new stakes near the tree line, disturbed soil where it shouldn't be. At exactly 10:30, I grabbed a flashlight and the brass key. The pump shed sat half hidden behind the barn, its door warped with age. The key slid into the lock smoothly, as if it had been waiting. Inside, beneath a loose floorboard, I found a metal box, and inside that box were documents that explained everything. Leases, maps, names I recognized, and one signature that shattered what little doubt I had left: Lucas's. I thought discovering my son's signature would break me. Instead, it gave me clarity, because now I knew this wasn't persuasion anymore. It was a coordinated attempt to erase me from my own land. I didn't take the box back into the house. Some instincts arrive without explanation, and I've learned the hard way not to ignore them. Instead, I carried it to the barn and hid it beneath a stack of old feed sacks, covering it carefully as if the land itself might be watching. Inside the house, everything felt different. The walls I'd painted with my husband's hands suddenly felt thin. Familiar objects, chairs, shelves, picture frames, no longer felt like comfort. They felt like access points, like anything left unattended could be examined, photographed, or used. I locked my bedroom door for the first time in 42 years. That night, I laid the documents out across the bed and read them slowly, forcing myself not to rush. Panic makes mistakes. I needed precision. The papers told a story that had been unfolding quietly for years. The land wasn't just land. Beneath it were mineral rights that had been reassigned through shell agreements, agreements disguised as temporary access permissions. The maps showed survey markers placed just far enough from the house to avoid suspicion, and there, on 3 separate pages, was my son's signature. Not forged, not copied, deliberate. Lucas had signed as a representative, claiming authority that could only exist if I were declared unfit or removed entirely from the process. I sat back against the headboard, my chest tight, but my thoughts strangely clear. This wasn't betrayal born from desperation. It was strategy. Just after midnight, my phone buzzed with a message from Marissa. "We need to talk tomorrow. This can still be easy." Easy. I didn't respond. At dawn, I walked the property line again, this time with new eyes. I noticed tire tracks that hadn't been there before, a gate latch left loose, fresh footprints near the tree line. Someone had been here recently. Around 9, a white pickup truck rolled slowly past the house without stopping. The windows were tinted, but I could feel the weight of it, like an unspoken question hanging in the air. I called the number from the envelope again. She answered on the first ring this time. "They're watching," I said. "Yes," she replied calmly. "That means they're nervous." "Who are you?" I asked again. "My name doesn't matter, but I worked with your husband. He suspected what was happening years ago." "He never told me," I said. "He was trying to protect you," she replied, "and keep you out of it." The irony nearly made me laugh. "What do I do now?" I asked. "You slow everything down, and you stop trusting anyone who tells you to move quickly." That afternoon, Lucas showed up alone. He parked crookedly in the driveway and walked up to the door without knocking, irritation radiating off him like heat. When I opened it, he paused, just long enough to scan the room behind me. "We need to discuss those papers," he said. "What papers?" I asked calmly. He exhaled sharply. "Don't do this, Mom." "Do what?" I asked. "Pretend you don't understand," he snapped. I stepped aside and let him in, watching closely as his eyes moved through the house. He was looking for something. "You've been under a lot of stress," he said, lowering his voice. "Marissa thinks you might have misunderstood what you saw." "Did I misunderstand your signature?" The color drained from his face. "You went through things you weren't supposed to," he said quietly. "That's interesting, because everything I saw had my husband's name on it and mine." Lucas ran a hand through his hair. "This isn't what you think." "Then explain it," I said. He didn't. Instead, he straightened his shoulders and changed tactics. "Look, if you don't cooperate, this gets complicated. Legal complications, financial ones." "Are you threatening me?" I asked. "I'm warning you," he said. I met his eyes. "Then you should be careful." He laughed once, short and humorless. "You think you can stop this?" "I think," I said slowly, "that you've underestimated me." He left without another word. That evening, I moved essentials into the barn, documents, heirlooms, anything irreplaceable. And I also did something I hadn't done in years. I called a lawyer. Not the local one Lucas recommended, someone 2 counties over, someone with no ties to this land. When I explained the situation, he went quiet. "You did the right thing by calling, and the right thing by not selling." "What happens next?" I asked. "It depends," he replied, "on how far they're willing to go." As night settled in, I realized something unsettling. The phone call hadn't been a warning, it had been a countdown. Because now that I knew the truth, the only thing standing between them and the land was me, and they had already decided I was in the way. I thought confronting my son would slow things down. Instead, it confirmed my worst fear, because if persuasion failed, they would move to something far more permanent. The next morning, the quiet felt unnatural. Not peaceful, alert, the kind of stillness that settles just before something shifts. I woke before sunrise, fully dressed, as if my body already knew rest was a luxury I couldn't afford. I stood at the kitchen window, watching fog lift slowly off the fields. Somewhere beyond the trees, a vehicle engine started, then stopped. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. Presence without permission. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You should really think about your options." No name, no signature. I didn't reply. Instead, I called the attorney I'd spoken to the night before, Mr. Halverson. His voice was calm, steady, the kind that didn't rush even when urgency demanded it. "They're applying pressure," I said. "Yes," he replied, "which means they're worried." I told him everything, the documents, Lucas's signature, the survey markers, the phone calls. He listened without interrupting. "When family gets involved in land disputes like this," he said finally, "it rarely stays civil." "What do you recommend?" I asked. "You make yourself very difficult to move," he said, "legally and physically." That afternoon, I drove into town, not to the places Lucas expected me to go, but to ones he wouldn't think to monitor. I updated my will, filed a temporary land use freeze, requested certified copies of old deeds my husband had insisted we keep. Every signature I added felt like reclaiming ground. When I returned home, a familiar car sat in the driveway. Marissa. She stood by the porch railing, phone in hand, posture rigid. When she saw me, she slipped the phone into her coat pocket and forced a smile. "We're worried," she said, skipping pleasantries. "You didn't answer Lucas." "I had nothing to say," I replied. She followed me inside without asking. "You're scaring him. This paranoia, people calling you, stories about land, it's not healthy." I set my keys down slowly. "You should choose your next words carefully." She stiffened. "We're trying to help you." "By selling my home?" I asked. "By protecting you," she snapped. "This place is dangerous." I looked at her, really looked. The tension beneath her calm, the impatience, the certainty that she was entitled to decide my future. "What are you afraid of?" I asked. She laughed sharply. "I'm afraid you'll ruin everything." There it was. Everything for who? I asked quietly. Her silence answered for her. "I know about the mineral rights and the surveys and Lucas's involvement." Her face drained of color. "You went snooping," she said. "No," I replied. "I went surviving." She stepped back as if recalibrating. "You don't understand what you're interfering with." "Then explain it," I said. She didn't. Instead, she changed tactics. "You can't prove anything, and even if you try, people will wonder about your state of mind." The threat hung in the air. I took a slow breath. "Get out." She hesitated. "You're making a mistake." "No," I said. "I'm correcting one." She left without another word. That evening, Mr. Halverson called. "Someone attempted to access the county registry under your husband's name," he said. "They were denied." "Lucas?" I asked. "Likely," he replied, "but this confirms escalation." I locked every door, checked every window. I didn't turn off the lights that night. Just before midnight, I heard footsteps outside. Slow, deliberate. I stayed still, heart pounding, listening as someone circled the house. A flashlight beam swept briefly across the living room wall, then vanished. Minutes passed, then the sound of an engine fading into the distance. I didn't sleep until dawn. The next morning, I found fresh tire marks near the fence line, too deep to be from farm equipment. And beside the gate, something else. A small wooden stake, newly placed. A marker. I took a photo and sent it to Mr. Halverson. "They're testing boundaries," he replied, "seeing how far they can go." As I stood there, looking across the land my husband had worked his entire life to protect, a realization settled into me, cold and steady. They weren't trying to convince me anymore. They were preparing for removal. And if I stayed quiet, if I hesitated even once, they would decide the next step for me. I walked back towards the house, no longer afraid, just focused. Because whatever they planned next, I needed to be ready. And this time, I would not be caught alone. I believed intimidation would be their final tactic. I was wrong. Because within 24 hours, they would make a move so bold it would force me to choose between disappearing quietly or exposing everything. The knock came just after noon. Not loud, not urgent, precise, measured in a way that suggested planning rather than impatience. I stood in the hallway for several seconds before answering, my heart steady but alert. Fear had already done its worst. What remained was clarity. When I opened the door, two men stood on the porch. One wore a pressed jacket and held a leather folder close to his chest. The other stood slightly behind him, hands clasped, eyes scanning the property with professional disinterest. "Mrs. Hayes?" the first man asked. "Yes." "I'm here regarding a welfare check," he said. "We received a call expressing concern about your safety." I didn't ask who made it. "I'm fine," I replied. "Who requested this?" "I'm afraid we can't disclose that," he said smoothly. "May we come in?" "No," I said. The pause that followed was brief but telling. "We just need to make sure you're not being influenced or confused. It won't take long." I stepped outside instead, closing the door behind me. "You can conduct your check right here," I said, "and you should know my attorney has advised me to document all interactions." The second man shifted uncomfortably. "We're not here to cause trouble," the first said. "We're here to help." "Then you can start by leaving," I replied. He sighed, opening his folder. "If you refuse cooperation, this may escalate." "So will I said calmly. They exchanged a look, then the folder snapped shut. "Very well," he said. "We'll note your refusal." As they walked back to their vehicle, I noticed the license plate. Local, but not county issued. Contractors, not officials. I photographed it. Inside, my hands shook, not from fear, but from the audacity of it. A welfare check, a pretense, a paper trail designed to make me look unstable. Lucas had crossed a line. I called Mr. Halverson immediately. "That was a private assessment firm," he said after I described the men. "They're often used to support guardianship claims." "So this is it? They're building a case?" "Yes," he replied, "but they're rushing." "Why?" I asked. "Because once you file what we discussed," he said, "they lose a leverage." That afternoon, I drove to his office. The document he placed in front of me was thick, intimidating, and oddly reassuring. A formal disclosure request, a demand for all communications, agreements, and financial interests related to the land, filed not just against Lucas and Marissa, but against every corporate entity tied to the surveys. "If they've hidden anything," Mr. Halverson said, "this forces it into the open. And if they haven't," I asked, "then they'll fight. Hard." I signed. On my way home, I noticed another car trailing me, keeping distance, slowing when I slowed. When I turned onto a side road, it continued straight. Testing. That evening, I received a voicemail from Lucas. His voice was calm, too calm. "Mom, we're concerned about the path you're choosing. This doesn't need to get ugly." I deleted it without listening to the rest. At sunset, Marissa texted, "You're embarrassing us." I blocked her number. As darkness settled, headlights appeared at the edge of the property. A truck idled for several minutes, then left. I didn't turn on the porch light. I sat at the kitchen table, documents spread before me, and finally allowed myself to feel what I'd been holding back. Not fear, not grief, but anger. Not explosive anger, focused anger. They had decided I was easier to remove than to negotiate with, that my age made me pliable, that silence meant consent. They were wrong. At midnight, my phone rang, the same unknown number from before. "I told you they'd escalate," the woman said. "They sent people. They're trying to label me." "Yes, because the next step isn't persuasion." "What is it?" I asked. "Containment," she said, "legal or otherwise." I closed my eyes. "What do I do now?" I asked. "You stop waiting," she said. "Tomorrow morning, you take control of the narrative." "How?" She paused. "By going public." The word landed heavily. "Public how?" I asked. "There are records your husband protected, records that expose more than just mineral rights. And if I release them, they'll scramble.
because once people start asking questions, they lose the ability to move quietly. The call ended. I sat there long after, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the distant sounds of night insects, the land breathing around me. My husband believed the truth belonged to those willing to stand still long enough to hear it. Tomorrow, I wouldn't be standing still anymore. Tomorrow, I would speak. I thought confronting my family was the hardest decision I'd have to make. I didn't yet understand that exposing the truth would put me directly in the path of something much larger and far more dangerous than I'd imagined.
Morning arrived without relief. I had expected sunlight to bring clarity, maybe even courage. Instead, it brought urgency, the kind that presses against your ribs and reminds you that waiting is no longer neutral, it's dangerous. I didn't leave the house right away. I sat at the kitchen table, documents stacked neatly in front of me, coffee growing cold at my elbow. I reread the maps, the agreements, the lease terms buried beneath layers of legal language meant to confuse rather than inform. My husband had known this day might come. That much was clear now. He hadn't hidden these records out of paranoia. He'd hidden them out of patience. He'd been buying time. At 9:30, I drove into town, not to the courthouse, not to the police station, but to the small local newspaper office tucked between a hardware store and a bakery. It wasn't flashy. It didn't need to be. The people there remembered names. They remembered patterns. The editor, a woman named Claire, listened without interrupting as I explained everything, from the envelope at the cafe to the surveys, the welfare check, and the pressure for my own family. I placed copies of the documents on her desk, watching her expression shift as she flipped through them. "This is substantial," she said finally. "It's also quiet," I replied. "Too quiet." She nodded. "Quiet stories stay buried. Loud ones don't." I didn't ask her to publish anything yet. I asked her to verify, to cross-check, to make calls I couldn't safely make myself. She agreed on one condition. "If we do this," she said, "we do it clean. Facts only." "That's all I want," I replied. By the time I returned home, my phone was buzzing with missed calls. Lucas, Marissa, unknown numbers. I ignored them all. Around noon, a county vehicle pulled into the driveway. This one was clearly marked. The man who stepped out wore a badge and a carefully neutral expression. "Mrs. Hayes," he said, "I'm here to follow up on a report." I didn't invite him in. "I'm aware of the report, and my attorney has advised me not to answer questions without representation." He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Understood, but I need to inform you that there is concern about your well-being." "Whose concern?" I asked. He hesitated. "Family members." "Then you should also be aware," I said calmly, "that those same family members are under investigation for potential financial misconduct related to this property." That got his attention. "I'd advise you to speak with your supervisor before this becomes more complicated than it needs to be." He made a note on his clipboard and left without argument. That evening, Claire called. "You were right," she said. "There are filings tied to your land that never went through proper channels, and there's a development group linked to your son through a third-party LLC." I closed my eyes. "How soon before this becomes public?" I asked. "Soon," she replied. "Once we verify one more connection." "Then I need to be ready," I said. "For what?" she asked. "For backlash." It came faster than I expected. By nightfall, a truck I didn't recognize parked across the road and didn't move. My phone rang again, this time from Lucas. I answered. "What are you doing?" he demanded, the calm finally gone. "I'm protecting myself," I replied. "You're blowing this out of proportion," he snapped. "You're going to ruin people." "I'm telling the truth. What it ruins isn't my responsibility. You don't understand who you're dealing with." I understand exactly who I'm dealing with. That's why I stopped trusting you." Silence followed. Then the line went dead. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't try to. Instead, I sat by the window, watching headlights pass, listening to the land settle into darkness. I thought about how often truth waits for permission, how it stays buried not because it's weak, but because it's patient. Just before dawn, my phone buzzed with a message from Claire. "We're running the story. Tomorrow morning, front page." I felt no triumph, no fear, just inevitability. Whatever happened next was no longer mine alone. The truth had stepped outside, and once it does, there's no pulling it back. I believed going public would finally protect me. I didn't yet realize that exposure would force the people behind this scheme to make a choice, and the one they made would put everything, including my safety, at risk. The paper hit doorsteps before sunrise. I didn't see it myself at first. I heard it. Engines slowing on the road, the faint thump of bundled pages landing against fences and mailboxes. By the time the sun crept over the trees, my phone had already begun to vibrate. I didn't answer. I made tea, sat at the table, waited. When I finally stepped onto the porch, a copy of the paper lay folded neatly near the steps, its headline visible even from a distance. "Quiet land deals spark questions in rural county." My name wasn't in the headline, but the address was unmistakable. The article was careful. Claire had kept her word. Dates, documents, public records, no speculation, no accusations beyond what could be proven. It outlined the surveys, the shell companies, the mineral leases that bypassed proper approval. It also noted that a private welfare check had been attempted shortly after the landowner refused to sell. Landowner, not elderly widow, not confused mother. That alone felt like a small victory. By mid-morning, cars began appearing along the road, some slowing, some stopping briefly before moving on. Curiosity travels fast in small towns, so does discomfort. At 10:30, Lucas called. I watched the phone ring until it stopped, then Marissa, then an unfamiliar number. I silenced the phone and sat back, breathing evenly. The story was out now. Whatever they planned next would have to be louder, and that made it riskier for them. Just after noon, a black SUV pulled into the drive. Not law enforcement, not local. Two people stepped out, a man and a woman, both dressed professionally, movements precise, the kind of people who introduce themselves as consultants. I met them on the porch. "Mrs. Hayes," the woman said, smiling without warmth. "We'd like to talk." "I'm not receiving visitors," I replied. "This concerns your safety and the well-being of your family." "My attorney handles all concerns," I said calmly. The woman's smile tightened. "This doesn't need to be adversarial." "It already is," I replied. They exchanged a glance. Public attention can complicate matters, especially when misunderstandings are involved. There's nothing misunderstood, only things that were hidden. The woman exhaled slowly. "You should consider stepping back. Let others resolve this." "Others already tried," I replied. "That's why we're here." The man nodded once as if confirming something to himself. Then this conversation is noted. They left without another word. Inside, my hands trembled, not from fear, but from the realization that I had crossed an invisible line. This was no longer just about my family or even the land. This had attracted attention from people who preferred quiet outcomes. That afternoon, Claire called again. "You're not imagining things," she said. "I'm getting calls, pressure, requests to delay follow-ups." "From who?" I asked.
from people who don't usually call a small paper, which means you struck something important. I looked out the window at the fields stretching beyond the fence. My husband once told me that the most valuable things were rarely obvious on the surface. "I don't want this to blow back on you," I said. "It will," she replied simply, "but that's part of it." By evening, a statement appeared online from a development group I'd never heard of, denying wrongdoing, emphasizing community growth, and distancing themselves from individual misunderstandings. Lucas's name wasn't mentioned, but his silence was. For the first time since this began, he didn't call again. That night, I walked the land one last time before dark, flashlight in hand, noting every marker, every disturbed patch of soil. I took photos, logged coordinates, sent everything to my attorney and to Claire. Documentation was my shield now. As I returned to the house, I noticed something else. The barn door, slightly ajar. I froze. I had closed it earlier, I was sure of it. Inside, the feed sacks had been moved, not rummaged, shifted carefully. The spot where I had hidden the metal box was exposed. The box was gone. I stood there in the dim light, heart pounding, not because I was surprised, but because I finally understood the urgency my husband must have felt. They hadn't tried to scare me away. They had tried to buy me out, then to label me. Now they were taking evidence. I locked the barn and returned to the house, calling my attorney immediately. "They've taken something," I said. He didn't ask what. "Then it's time for the final step," he said. "What's that?" I asked. "Ensuring they can't bury what they took." I sat at the kitchen table as darkness fell, the house quiet around me. The land outside was still there. The truth was already moving. But now something else had changed. This wasn't about defense anymore. It was about making sure the story couldn't be rewritten once I was gone. I thought losing the evidence would set me back. I was wrong, because what they stole was only a copy, and the original was hidden somewhere they would never think to look.
I didn't panic when I realized the box was gone. That surprised me more than anything. Instead, a strange calm settled in, one that only comes when fear has already done its worst and failed. They had taken the decoy, the copy, the thing I wanted them to find. The real proof had never been in the barn. That night, I waited until the house was quiet and the road empty before I climbed the narrow staircase to the attic. My husband had built it himself decades ago, reinforcing the beams and creating a shallow crawl space no one ever noticed. He used to joke that if the house ever forgot him, the attic wouldn't. I pulled aside the insulation and reached into the narrow gap behind the support beam. The envelope was still there. Inside were originals, signed mineral leases, correspondence, and one handwritten letter addressed to me in my husband's careful script. I sat cross-legged on the attic floor and read it by flashlight. If you're reading this, it means I was right to worry. I didn't tell you because I hoped it wouldn't come to this, but if it does, remember this: the truth doesn't need permission. It only needs one person willing to stand still and not look away. I closed my eyes, letting the words steady me. The next morning, I didn't wait. I scanned everything and sent copies to my attorney, to Claire, and, on my attorney's advice, to a state-level investigative office far outside local influence. Once sent, there was no undoing it. By noon, the phone rang. Not Lucas, not Marissa. A number marked unknown. I answered. "You've made this much harder than it needed to be," a man's voice said calmly. "For whom?" I asked. A pause. "For everyone." "I disagree," I replied. It's only hard when people don't want to be seen. You're risking a great deal, he said. I already lost what mattered most, I replied. Everything else is just leverage. The line went dead. That afternoon, the story broke wider. Regional outlets picked it up. Questions spread beyond my land to other parcels, other quiet deals, other families pressured into quick sales. Patterns emerged, names repeated. This was never about me alone. By evening, Lucas finally came. He stood at the end of the drive, not approaching the house, hands shoved deep into his pockets. He looked somehow smaller, older. You didn't have to do this, he said. Yes, I replied. I did. You've destroyed everything, he said bitterly. I looked at him, the son I raised, the man who thought entitlement was inheritance. No, I said quietly. I stopped pretending. He opened his mouth to argue, then stopped. There was nothing left to threaten me with, no leverage, no silence to exploit. I hope it was worth it, he said. So do I replied. He left without another word. In the days that followed, investigators came, not unannounced, not coercive, careful, professional. They asked questions, took statements, requested access with respect instead of assumption. For the first time since my husband died, I felt believed without having to prove I deserved it. The pressure eased slowly like a storm moving off the horizon. Cars stopped passing so often, calls stopped coming. The land felt quieter again, not empty, but settled. I stayed. Not out of stubbornness, but out of choice. I reinforced the fences, restored the shed, planted new trees along the southern edge where the soil had been disturbed. Life returned to the land the way it always does when given room. Sometimes in the evenings, I sit on the porch and listen. I think about how close I came to being moved aside, not with force, but with paperwork, politeness, and people who claim to know better. That's how it happens most of the time. Not loudly, but conveniently. If there's anything this taught me, it's this. Pay attention when urgency replaces respect. Be wary when love asks you to disappear. And never assume the danger is obvious. It usually wears a familiar face. I don't know what will happen next. Investigations take time. Outcomes unfold slowly. But I know where I stand. On my land, in my truth, unmoved. And if someone ever tries again to tell me I'm in the way, they'll have to do it knowing I'm no longer willing to step aside. I once believed survival meant holding on quietly. Now I know it means standing where you are, especially when others are counting on you to leave.